All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Beck. I'm the Director of Admission here at Trinity-Pawling School. A big congratulations to those of you that we haven't seen yet on one of our virtual events on your acceptance to Trinity-Pawling. For those of you that have attended other events, congratulations to you. But we are excited this evening to talk a little bit and kick off our kind of academics here at Trinity-Pawling, followed by another event tomorrow before our in-person revisit day on Thursday. So I'm going to introduce the folks that have been so generous with their time this evening and let them kind of take it from here. But we'll start and I'll look at my screen as we go along here. And up first for me is Slade Mead, our Associate Headmaster for External Engagement. So I'll let him say hello first.
Well, hello, and thank you, Jeff. First off, congratulations to all the families and the young men who have gained acceptance to Trinity-Pawling. We're looking forward to having you join us next year. My name is Slade Mead. I'm in my 13th year, and for the first 12 years, I worked in college placement. This year, I did something a little different, working both with the admissions office and the advancement office. But next year, I'll be going back to the college placement office. I teach a U.S. government class, which is a year-long class, and I teach a constitutional law class, which is an elective for juniors and seniors in the spring term.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Mead. Next up is Mr. Scott Harf, and he is our current Director of College Counseling.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Yeah, so like Jeff said, I am our Director of College Counseling right now. This is my 5th year in the College Counseling Department, 7th year at the school. Worked with Mr. Mead for a long time, and then also Mr. Denham, who you'll hear from in a little bit. In addition to my college role, I also work in both a junior senior dorm and a freshman sophomore dorm. So I get to see the kids there. And then I also coach hockey, coach lacrosse, and then teach one of our AP economics courses.
Wonderful. Next up is Roberta Liedl, our Dean of Teaching and Learning.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. Congratulations. I'm Roberta Liedl. I am the Dean of Teaching and Learning at Trinity-Pawling. This is a new role for me. I'm in my 20th year at Trinity-Pawling. I was the previous director for the Center of Learning Achievement, which I still teach a course, English course in that program. And basically the Dean of Teaching and Learning is the point person for basically all our faculty and all our academic and curriculum. So I guess I should be on this webinar.
I don't know if anybody else should be. It should just be you.
Okay.
Oh,
and I collaborate with all of these wonderful gentlemen. So
wonderful. And then last but not least, we have Bill Dunham, Associate Director of College Counseling. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. I'm in my 28th year here at Trinity-Pawling. I have served many roles over that time. I'm currently the Associate Director of College Counseling and the English Department Chair. I'm also the head wrestling and head golf coach, and excited to be on this call and look forward to meeting all of you in the future.
Wonderful, thank you. And so we have the way we want this to break out tonight is kind of to introduce you to some unique programs that we have that really kind of set us apart as a school, and I think really help drive the engaging and active learning that our students are really kind of embracing and taking advantage of while on campus. But also then how does that relate to what's beyond Trinity-Pawling? And so we want to kind of walk you through the experience of a Trinity-Pawling student. Yes, we recognize there's some that'll be on this call that will come in as juniors. So we'll certainly be addressing that college counseling aspect, but certainly for those students that are in those 9th and 10th grades that have their high school journey ahead of them, we're excited to share a lot of these tremendous opportunities. I will encourage anybody, if you have specific questions, please put it in the chat function, and we will try to get to those as we go throughout this webinar. The other thing that we will start off with is that we have a couple questions that were submitted at the time when folks registered. So to start off, and this would, we would love to hear a little bit more about the advising and the advisor program at Trinity-Pawling, and when does it start, and how do students get involved, and how do parents really kind of connect with those advisors as well. And I think I want to kick that over to Slade Mead to start us.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, the advisor-advisee program is a key component to the Trinity-Pawling experience. And as a new student, you would be assigned an advisor. And our Dean of Residential Life spends a lot of time looking at your file and trying to figure out what would be a good fit. It might be a coach that you're going to have. It might be a dorm parent you're going to have. It might be a teacher you're going to have. But there's a very high probability that your advisor is going to be someone that first year who you're going to have a daily contact with. The advisor then, after the first year, it's really up to you. If you want the person to stay on as your advisor, you just say, would you be my advisor my second year? Or if you want to skip or change advisors, you're welcome to do so if you've built a rapport with another faculty member. The advisee role, there's two components, and I think this is a very important piece of the puzzle. There's the advisor with the student, and we meet basically like my advisees, I literally see every day because I have some point of contact. But I also talk to the parents, and my phone is available for the parents. So if a parent feels there's a problem or something needs to be addressed, the first person you should call is your son's advisor. And if a student is feeling any sort of angst or frustration or question or whatever, first person he should reach out to is his advisor. And then the advisor will be the advocate and help work through any problems. Now, on the really good side, a lot of times, and I'm sort of looking at Bill Dunham here because I know this is especially true for him, we stay in touch with their advisors well after they're graduating from Trinity-Pawling. In fact, I just got a wedding invitation to a wedding of an advisee, and that's not abnormal. We follow them in college, and people, advisees will reach out, which is fine, and touch base with us throughout the college process and even beyond. And that's expected and normal, and we really encourage it. Thanks, Jeff.
Wonderful, thank you. And I just want to touch a little bit upon, you mentioned that the new students will pass off a file. So we're actually going to make that file a little bit more robust this year for those advisors. And so once students are admitted and enrolled, we're going to actually be giving a little bit of early homework, if you will, to those students and families to get to know the students even better. And for that reason, we do, many of the students interviewed in October or early November. A lot has changed even to now, let alone till the end of the school year. So we're going to be putting together kind of a student profile packet for all those advisors with information that's provided from the families and from the students, which will be able to be passed along to those advisors to make that transition as smooth as possible. So some exciting stuff there, but that's certainly something that we'll be continuing to work on, and we want those relationships to really take off as soon as possible, which is great. We have a couple questions, and I think, Roberta, you're going to be the best one to be able to answer these, which are, there's two of them, which are how many credits are required per semester, which I think is kind of how many classes each student taking. And the second is how many single term or elective courses are available to students. So if you want to go ahead and take that one, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So we have a minimum course load of 5 classes. Every class meets 4 times a week. We have a 5-day rotation. And so, but we have a few students that do take 7 classes. We do not recommend it. We do see that those are usually some students that really push the boundaries on over scheduling themselves, but a minimum of 5 classes. And then electives, term electives for religion, we have about 8 religion electives, and that's 8 different distinct courses. Sometimes we have them in two of our trimesters, so it actually is a lot of opportunities for, and it's pretty diverse, our selections in the religion, under the religion umbrella. And then we have about 5 or 6 art term electives that can be utilized, and music. And then we also, as you get up in grades, if you're in 11th or 12th grade, of course, there's a lot more choices available. So in the humanities and things like that. And we're working towards changing that even within our courses, so that we can kind of, as students go up through their academic career, they can really individualize what their passion is, and by picking certain semesters where they're really focusing on something. So we're building into that that variability so that they can really dial into what they want to master and plus what they are interested in.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing. And I think that that's the should be exciting for a lot of the students on this call, is that especially for those students that, and I did take a look through the attendee list there, there's a handful of students that are doing a reclassification year. Which anywhere between 35 to 50% of our student body does that reclass. They're not repeating any courses, which, as you alluded to, as they get to that junior and senior year, they're building that resume, their transcript for college, which we will certainly get to a little bit later, but there will be plenty of options for them to take advantage of either academics that they have never been exposed to the different passions that they've started to develop here. But we want to continue here and kind of get into the meat of what we want to talk about. And this is what I think sets Trinity-Pawling apart than certainly some of the other boarding schools, is our practicum and our winter session. So, and then, like I said, we'll dovetail that into kind of the college matriculation and the college process as well. So you might hear a little bit more from Slade and Roberta here in this next part, a little bit more from Scott and Bill towards the end. But would love to kick it over to Slade, I guess, to start off in talking about kind of the practicum and the winter session, where that came from and where it's going.
Well, the practicum, I think a lot of people are claiming that they're the ones who started it because it's a very successful program. But it started 5-6 years ago, and the idea was to give every student an opportunity to take a class or create a class or be in a class that's just a little bit different. And I was in the college office when it started, and I will tell you, it has been nothing but a pleasure to have the practicum because it differentiates our students from other school students when we're talking to the colleges. And we can get into the particular practicum, the what classes are doing what. But one of the things that I think is very ironic is there happened to be a worldwide pandemic a few years ago and still going on. And our practicum basically saved us and gave us something to replace the SAT, ACT score, which colleges really aren't taking anymore. And we're able to demonstrate how our students are doing things a little bit differently. So Roberta, do you want to talk about the 3 different types with the Global Challenge and the Senior Independent Project and then the winter session?
Absolutely. So Slade was at the foundational piece of this and absolutely the driving force. And we just, we are learning every year. And we got to we were in person this year and we had this wonderful experience of winter session, which is a 2.5-week block between Thanksgiving and our Christmas break, where we get to do a deep dive into this experience. So we have a small middle school, our 9th and 10th graders, they would do our winter project, which is led by 2 faculty members. This winter projects were phenomenal, and I can get into more details on that. Our juniors would do the Global Collaborative Challenge, and that is a real world problem that they're solving, and they're building on those skills. And then we finally have our Senior Independent Project. So there's a real hierarchy of how we have some more scaffold experiential learning with our winter projects. We learn a little bit different skill level. We take those winter project skills, we piled on that, a little more independence, and then we get to the Senior Independent Project. And then we have faculty members that are really mentors in some ways, with just kind of coaching them through that. And the seniors took the reins, and some of them are still continuing to doing it and doing independent projects with distinction. And Scott Harf can explain more about the GCC and the Senior Independent Projects. But the winter projects were amazing. This year, the kids got off campus. It's very scheduled for certain structure, and then it's unscheduled where they can really be hands-on and creative, and boys learn best by doing. We had one that was building a maple sugar factory. Basically, we went and our group surveyed the maple trees on our 300+ acre campus. And actually, in the end, they ended up tapping some trees, and literally, even though it wasn't the season, they figured out they could make some maple sugar, and they learned all about that. They went visited maple sugar farms. And so real hands-on experience. And there's just some amazing winter projects that we've had over the last 2 years. And the year before we were 100% virtual, and it was still so successful. But Scott, I don't know if you want to join in and tell about the GCC and the Senior Independent Project, some of the things that went on there.
Yeah, thank you, Roberta. So as Roberta said earlier, the underclassmen all do the winter projects, and then the next two are actually graduation requirements. So incoming juniors, returning juniors, and then any new senior or postgraduate would do the Global Collaborative Challenge to satisfy their graduation requirement. The Global Collaborative Challenge it's kind of a hybrid between the two of the independent project and the winter project. So it becomes more student driven. It's not quite yet independent. Students are working, they actually get randomly paired up into groups of 5 or 6 students. Each team of students then has a faculty mentor that they can look to, but is going to kind of step back and like Roberta said, let them kind of take the reins of everything. Each team chooses a question that I always chuckle when I say it, because we end up with these questions like, solve the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, or does it make financial sense to send a manned mission to Mars, or determine the net environmental impact of the 4 major sports leagues in North America. So these students choose these questions that like the smartest adults in the world can't figure out, and they're 17, 18 years old, and they have to give an answer. After 2 weeks of research, they've got to give an answer in a 12-minute presentation with a visual aid. So in a way, it's like totally impossible, and yet these guys come up with the most creative, fantastic responses, and they become these little experts on campus of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The next level of that would be our seniors, so they have to complete their graduation requirement, and any postgraduate or new senior can actually opt into this. So they'd opt out of the Global Collaborative Challenge and into the next step, which is a Senior Independent Project. So now the reins are completely taken off. The students are working independently, and kind of like what Mr. Mead said at the beginning, it's their opportunity to try something totally different, outside the box, and dive into. It could be something that they have an academic interest in. It could be something they have maybe see as a potential career interest, or it could be something that's more of a hobby that they just haven't gotten to explore as a high school student in the classroom. So just as they would with the winter project and the Global Collaborative Challenge is a presentation, in-person presentation element at the end. Again, those skills kind of move throughout. And two of the examples from this year's senior class, we had one student who he's really interested in aeronautical engineering. And so he actually built a model wave pool. He's continuing that on, like Roberta said, into a program called the Diploma with Distinction. So it's students who go above and beyond in the Senior Independent Project. And then another student who's actually following the same track, he wrote his own, it's incredible, like as a classroom teacher with messy handwriting, I particularly enjoy it, but he wrote a handwriting to text app. So you can like take a picture of my messy chicken scratch on the smartboard and it converts it to text. So wrote that all on his own. So the kids are doing some pretty high level things, but what it all boils down to is things that they're interested in. So it's not me standing there and saying, hey, you're going to go do this, you're going to read this. It's they're getting to really stretch their minds themselves here.
And I would add that we celebrate this as a community. It's such a buzz at those 2.5 weeks. And we celebrate it at the end with a finale where as families come in at the end and are participating in other college placement stuff, but also just celebrating what they're doing. So almost like an old-fashioned science fair. And the kids love it because they get to really see and ask questions. And I was so impressed by the seniors you would have swear it was a pitch process, in Silicon Valley. Everybody had their table and their placard, and they were thrilled with what they've done, and they were excited to share it with people, and teachers and faculty and staff all went around, and parents, and it's a great event. It definitely is a wonderful way to utilize a new experience in academics for those 2.5 weeks.
And
Can I
those-
piggyback on you
Go
on
ahead.
that as well with the global challenge that what the juniors do? Selfishly from the college office, it's fantastic because when the students have to fill out their Common App in the fall of their senior year, one of the essay questions, the prompts is discuss a major problem. And it's a prompt that very few high school seniors use, except our guys use it a lot because they have their junior collaborative challenge topic right there to discuss. And it differentiates our students in the Common App process. And the other thing I want to share, and I saw this a few times, and I remember specifically with the Hobart representative, the kids are like, what do we talk about in an interview? And I was like, talk about your global challenge. And the Hobart rep came out just dazed. Like, my God, I've never had conversations with such substance about a real problem before. Yeah, that was fantastic. So it really is arming our juniors to attack the college process from a position of strength.
Absolutely, and I will say that everybody is on this call was exposed to a senior independent project this year, and one of the students that made the acceptance video. So he not only made it, but he shot it, he starred in it, he cut it, he edited it. He did it all, and so I got to be slightly involved in that, which was really neat to kind of to go along in that ride and watch him kind of come up with this idea, and then hopefully you all had the opportunity to see it and enjoy it as well. And then Mr. Mead, I also got to be involved in your winter session, your winter project, which was the baseball arbitration. And so I in my first year here, I've gotten involved. I feel like on two different forefronts, which was really cool. But the baseball arbitration cases that were brought to us were really well done. It was incredible to see in just 2 weeks. And I say that that there were a handful of students, I think 2 or 3, that were in that project that were international students or are international students that had never seen a game of baseball before in their lives. So they're trying to pick out the appropriate stats without quite understanding the game. And so they fully immerse themselves in trying to understand the game before they can start picking out what it is that they want to support their client, if you will, in that baseball arbitration. So it was a ton of fun. But I'd love to continue with that college counseling. And I think that from a college counseling perspective, almost start from the when kids arrive to campus to when they're starting to be more formally involved, and then lead that into kind of that junior and senior year, if you don't mind kind of sharing that kind of timeline, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting from, if we have any middle schoolers on the call, middle school kind of through 10th grade is we have, especially right now in the spring when it's relatively smooth sailing for the college office, our doors are always open. So if you're a student, if you're a parent, you have questions about whether it's colleges to look at on some breaks, if you're on vacation, if you have questions about courses, I talk with Roberta a lot when people have those questions, or they'll come directly to us. So we're happy to answer those questions. In terms of formal programming, we do, this year we introduced a financial aid webinar series. So each class would get, the freshmen and sophomores classes each get one webinar kind of geared towards preparing that financial aid picture for when you're applying to college as seniors. The juniors and seniors each get 2, so there's 6 webinars available. And then moving into kind of when we kick off in earnest every December, right before the right at the end of the winter session, we were to kind of reference it there. Right before the kids leave for the big Christmas break, we'll have our college launch day. So this year, I think we had 6 colleges come. We'll do a panel discussion so students and parents of that junior class can see kind of from the other side of the desk what the process looks like. It's also a really good way for students to begin putting a face with a name to the people who are going to be reading their applications. Then when they come back in the winter term and then through the spring term, we'll begin meeting with the students, with our college advisees. One of the things I've really enjoyed working in the Trinity-Pawling College office here is how collaborative the 3 of us have always been, and that even though you might be assigned to Mr. Dunham, certainly Mr. Mead and I are there to answer questions. The 3 of us see each other multiple times a day. So it's really a pretty collaborative, team-based approach. So building a college list, we have College Kickstart and Score. If you have questions about kind of that software, I'm happy to answer questions. But they help organize the students, they help organize us, they help organize the parents. You can do virtual tours on all of it. There's tons of financial aid information on it. So I'm happy to answer questions if I'm assuming our contact information will go out at some point, Mr. Beck. And then we'll be here Thursday too for our in-person revisit day. And then moving into kind of the summer and fall, that's when we're working on college essays. As college counselors, we're working all summer on essays that are getting sent to us. So we encourage that. We don't feel bad. Please send us those throughout the summer. And then in the fall, that's the real busy time for us. We've got over 150 college representatives that will visit campus every year. So the students have an opportunity, maybe if they can't do a true college visit on campus, they still get to meet someone in person. They get to ask questions. The reps get to meet the student applicants in person, which is a big advantage for our students. Again, continuing that Common App, continuing that essay, some college visits might be sprinkled in there off campus. And then that kind of continues on through January and February, and then obviously helping counsel on decisions, wait lists, and stuff that are happening around now with the senior class. So it's really a year-long process that never stops. But like I said at the beginning, our door is open to anyone at any point in time if you have a question there.
Mr. Harf, I would just add to that, we have a college fair that the juniors are all going over to on this coming Sunday. For example, we like to have that to give them an opportunity to discuss with representatives from colleges they're interested in, what they are interested in, to introduce themselves. As Mr. Mead can say from his many years in this office, that face-to-face time does pay big dividends. He has emphasized to them that the first impression is important, but we like to get our kids used to talking to college reps, being comfortable doing so. And we find that, I would say from that winter session, I find our kids are very skilled at speaking with representatives from schools and do a great job of putting on their best face. I would also add during the summer, as I started last year, I know Scott and I both ran and attended Zooms with parents at times. We are also working and meeting with reps during that time to strengthen our relationships, to let them know what's going on here at Trinity-Pawling, as those are assets we can call on when we get a question about, wow, this young man's waitlisted, he'd really like to go there. We have somebody to call up, and that's a huge advantage that Trinity-Pawling affords its students, is that we're constantly working to improve our relationship with the colleges our students apply to, and finding new and exciting colleges we may not be that familiar with.
Always. Well, I thank you. I didn't see any questions come in on the chat there. I really want to say thank you, a big thank you to Slade, Scott, Roberta, and Bill for taking time this evening to chat with you all. And for those that are not on the call live, hopefully you'll be able to gain something from this if you're able to watch this webinar. We wanted to keep it as short and sweet as possible so that you could absorb it all. But I think that what we at Trinity-Pawling, and hopefully you took away from this call, is that we want to celebrate all the individuals, right? Their gifts and talents, what they bring to our campus, and then what we're able to provide them in this experience is what we're really going after. And beyond that, I also point out that hopefully what you heard, it sounds invigorating and vigorous, right? And that's really what, if you hear Headmaster Taylor talk, he talks about this all the time, that if you're using the word rigor at Trinity-Pawling, you might be sent to the dean's office, right? I mean, that's not a good word for us, right? And I think that that's really something that hopefully you're hearing in what we're talking about and what we're doing, not just, our actions are speaking certainly louder than our words, with the experience that the boys are having, just not only in the classroom, but in the dorms and beyond, during specific times of the year. And it's really exciting stuff that's happening. And so I want to again thank you for joining the call, but also certainly Roberta and Scott for and Slade for all their hard work in developing these programs that help put us in a different lane than a lot of other schools. So I thank you, and I really appreciate your time, and thank you all for who joined this evening. We really appreciate it. So thank you and have a great evening.
Good night.